So, hello, my name's Stephen Grinnell. I'm from Interx Pain Clinic based in Stratford-upon-Avon, and I have an online business called Energy Medicine. Both those businesses are massively focused on plantar fasciitis, and I've been working in that area for probably around 14 years now. So I've seen a lot of people around, getting on for 3,000 people now with plantar fasciitis. And last week, I think I saw 18 people in the clinic. Some people a bit more often because they're on different programs. And I think I spoke to 12, 13 people online. So I've seen a lot of people this week. I've been really pleased to have a bank holiday, if I'm honest. Now, what does that mean? It means I've seen a lot and I know a lot. I've also had a lot of success. So the key thing while you're on this process is just to bear in mind that plantar fasciitis is not a permanent thing, and it can be fixed. So it can be fixed. It takes a little bit of time, but it can be fixed. So the key question, the first question that I get asked, and the first question I always stress to everybody is, what is plantar fasciitis and why have I got it? A few reasons for why, and this is just from 14 years of treating people. We tend to be fall into two camps. So as we get older, we tend to be less active, just on the basis that work, life, family, kids, responsibilities get in the way. And within that, we tend to do a little bit less. We automate a bit more. So we drive to the shops, we might do online shopping, we go out and see people. We have a bigger community, which is further away. So you might go and see family and friends, but you travel there in a car, bus, train, etc. Now, the key thing with that is that our feet traditionally then have got weaker and our physical status has got weaker. So when we then do activity, that might be a long walk, it might be doing the garden when the weather's nice, it might be doing an activity that you haven't done for some time, or it might be something you do seasonally. We put our bodies under a lot more pressure. So they've got to adapt to that change in pressure. And if the change is quite high, you can then start to have micro tears and problems. Now, fascia or fasciitis is basically damaged tissue, so it's damaged fascia, and it's damaged in the bottom part of your foot. So it's usually around in the heel there, underneath your ankle. So that tends to be the primary place. Now, when the fascia is there, what it's designed for is a support mechanism. So it's designed to go from your heel to the ball of your foot, and it's designed to give you some stability in your foot. And it's primarily used with standing. The rest of the muscles of your foot are there just to help with balance, coordination, allow you to move, act as shock absorbers when you jump off something, when you go upstairs, when you go downstairs, and when you walk. Now, obviously, that's brilliant. And as long as you've got all of the components and you say do activity regularly, invariably you don't tend to get plantar fasciitis. Now, there's been quite a big increase in plantar fasciitis. Sort of 20 years ago, it was about 7% of the population. It's over 10% at the minute. And part of the reason for that, as I've said, is I think people are just doing less, but then doing more in bursts. So you're going away for a weekend like a bank holiday, but you're doing lots of activity which you've not done for maybe 2 months before. So you're putting your body under a lot of pressure. So the majority of people I see, they've had a form of plantar fasciitis for a period of time. So that could be 6 months up to several years. And I've had people where they've had plantar fasciitis on and off in both feet for up to 9, 10 years. So they've suffered with it for a long period of time. So key thing to bear in mind is that I've just shown you the bottom part of a foot. On that foot there, you've got various different muscles that you can see, and you've got these sort of tendons, ligaments, structure, and the same sort of thing on the top of the foot. So the key thing to remember is that the actual fascia is three different layers of muscles underneath. So you've got three layers of muscle. So this is the top layer. There's two more below it to before you actually get to the fascia. Now, that's really, really important because part of the problem that people have is that when they get plantar fasciitis, your body responds exactly the same as it does with any other tissue damage. So it tenses the muscles around to help support that area. So the idea is that it's getting very, very tense. And what happens with your foot, instead of your foot being nice and flat like that, the muscles of your feet go like this. So they tense to try and support and help the fascia and also to stop you using it. And obviously, when you get up in the morning, you start walking around, your foot is in that sort of position because all the muscles at the bottom of your foot are in slight tension. I'm exaggerating so you can see what I mean. And then obviously then when you put your foot down, you stretch your foot out because you're going to be flat on the floor. And obviously that pulls all the muscle tissue, but that puts a lot of pressure on the fascia on the heel of your foot, coupled with the fact that when you stand up from sitting, okay, the force that's going through your heel here is roughly 7 times your body weight. So it's a big increase in force. If you think of 7 times your body weight, that's quite a lot of force and load, coupled with the fact that all your muscles are in this position because you've been asleep. And then obviously they then straighten out, and obviously that puts a lot of pressure on. So the body, while trying to help itself, is invariably hurting itself. Now, you can get fasciitis, as I said, primarily from wear and tear or from doing sporadic activity, and it tends to build up over a period of time. Now, once you've got a problem, unless you change something, all that happens is that problem gets gradually worse. So you tend to find that plantar fasciitis manifests itself over quite an extensive period of time. So it's not like, oh, bang. I've seen probably less than 5% of cases, and that's people where I spoke to them online, phone calls, or face to face in the clinic, where they've had a problem where it's just got bang and they've got an issue. That's really, really, really rare. It tends to be over a period of time. And what people do then is that they obviously compensate. So they compensate in what activities they do, how they drive, how they walk, how they stand. They modify work, they modify home. So they do all of these things rather than look at the root cause. Now, my philosophy, my why I do what I do and why I do things differently with such a great level of success is because I aim to fix the core problem. So the core problem is you've got tissue damage in this part of your foot. So rather than just addressing the pain or just addressing, here we are, have some insoles or some special shoes or other bits, you've got to look at utilizing those types of things to be able to improve and make things better. So people come to see me, they have different issues. They tend to have had plantar fasciitis for a long period of time. People speak to me online, I have lots of phone calls, and everybody says the same thing. I've got some insoles, and they don't seem to be working that well. Well, part of the problem with an insole is that it's generic. So this is a plantar fasciitis insole. It's got a nice little arch support, slips in. It's not too big. It's not too thick, so it doesn't impact on your shoe and all the other bits. But it's assuming that you're wearing the right shoes. It's assuming that that's what you need. So you need arch support because obviously bear in mind it could be at different parts. It could be the inner part or an outer part of the fascia that's damaged, and you need different support. You can also get things like orthotics and custom made insoles. And what the purpose of an insole is to get your foot so that it sits nice and square. So you're not in that position, you're not in that position. And alternatively, you're slightly in that position. And the reason for doing that is to alter the force on your foot. So the way I say to everybody, if we do an assessment, if I see you face to face, if I'm on the video with you now, I tell everybody, right, take your shoes and socks off and stand up. If that hurts, that's something you need to look at. If you need to wear footwear and other bits around, then obviously you've got a problem. So that isn't working. Now, I get loads of questions on what's the best footwear, what are the best insoles, what's the best device, how does these things happen? So one of the things that I tell people, first thing that you should try and do is while you're at home is to walk around in bare feet. Okay, so that's a real big thing, and everyone thinks I'm nuts because obviously you've got no protection to your feet or anything else, but they weren't designed to have protection. I know that sounds a bit of a weird thing to say because we're human, but you're meant to be able to walk around in bare feet. Now, I'm not saying you should walk 3 miles down the road on pavement in bare feet. I'm just saying walking around the house. Now, the benefit of doing that is that one, it gives you a base level, so it actually looks at how bad things are and what you can do, what you can't do. And what you'll find is most of the cases of the people that I speak to, rather than walking in a heel, midfoot push off, so a heel toe action, most people walk so that they land on the front part of the foot, they land on their toes. And in doing that, what you're doing is you're not walking properly, so you're increasing the tension around your foot area. So that's what causes some of the problems. So no insole, no special shoes, no rolling of your foot. None of the devices you see are pulsing or shockwave or any of those sorts of things are going to help if fundamentally you're moving in the wrong way. So they might have a temporary relief. So if you can relax the muscles, that's brilliant. But as soon as you start moving again, they're going to get tense and you're not going to help the problem. So the key thing, and which is what I want to sort of explain to you tonight, is look very, very much at what are the core things that you can do to improve your plantar fasciitis situation. So the first thing that you want to be looking at doing is altering how you stand. And the most obvious thing to do is to do things so that things are square. So if you've got bare feet, it's to put your put your feet. So instead of when you stand up, you'll find that your feet will be in a slightly different position. They might be slightly offset, and that will just be naturally how you stand. What you want to try and do is stand with your feet so they're nice and straight and have them just a couple of inches further apart than normal. So that's like a sort of starting point. Straight away, while you're in this position, you've got a standing position where it's consistent. You could measure it and look at it and all the other stuff. Now, I do assessments with people where I get them to walk down laminate flooring so they've got things to follow. But the next stage is when you're walking, it's to think about heel toe. So it's just thinking about walking with your heels. Now, you'll do that and your heel will hurt. What are you saying? It's going to hurt. It does initially because all the muscles are all super tense. As soon as you start walking properly, they have to relax to allow that action. And that obviously calms down the problem area. The other thing to also consider is if that hurts, you need to do something more serious. So if it's visual, so if you cut yourself and you don't realise, then when you look at it and you see loads of blood, you're like, oh, panic, put something on that, right? That's really bad, that is. I need to go to hospital. And you go and you get sorted out. If your plantar fasciitis is bad, you might go to the doctors and the doctor will say, yep, you've got plantar fasciitis. I'll refer you physio. They might give you an injection, but they don't look at things like surgery or anything else because there's 10% of the population, which is about 6 million people, so that's a lot of people. And also, it's transient. So, as I said at the beginning, you can definitely fix it. So, if you can do that, you don't necessarily need surgery. On a personal level, I've had osteoarthritis for 25 years. So, within that, I've had to have two replacement hips. And you get to a point where it's just worn out and something you can do. So, within that, that sort of thing seems logical for surgery. A damaged foot doesn't seem logical. Now, told you that you've got different muscles. The back part of your heel here, there's a big muscle, your calf muscles up here, comes down to your Achilles tendon, which you probably have heard of. That goes essentially round here and then insert so it connects, fully enough, right on top of the fascia here. So when you exercise that muscle, so when you come up onto your toes and push off to go forwards, that muscle contracts and puts loads of pressure there. So all of these things and how you move aggravate your plantar fasciitis. So you will have experienced a little bit of pain. Today's not too bad. Tomorrow, oh, I haven't been walking as much today. I feel fine. And then gradually that increases. It gets to a point where it goes up quite quickly. So most people can cope with the pain. As I said, it can be extended time to a certain point. So I've said to you, first thing, standing, you've got to look like this. Now, when you sit to stand, so when you're sitting down on the edge of bed, sitting in a chair, the key thing to remember is that 80% of the nerve communication from your brain gets shut down from your waist down to your feet because you're sitting down, so you don't need to use it. It's the way the body conserves energy, conserves communication. That's why when you stand up, you've got to then position yourself to be able to stand up so that your body can stand up and take the load off. So the way that I get you to do that is I get you to sit down. I alternate your feet. So I'll say, right, whichever foot, so we say this is the worst one, this foot here and this foot here. This foot's the worst one. So you put that one forwards, this one back. So you put more load on the non-damaged foot. Okay. If you've got plantar fasciitis in both, you put it on the one that hurts the least. So you offset the feet, you then put your toe down, so you lift your foot up, so your toes down, and then you literally just sit yourself forwards, all your weight on this foot and roll onto this foot, but stay on your toe. What that does is it reduces the load from 7 times your body weight to about 50% of your body weight. which is obviously a massive decrease. That means that you're not damaging the fascia anymore every time you stand up. If you're not damaging it anymore every time you stand up, it's not going to get progressively worse with standing. So obviously that's a really important thing. So the key thing to remember, offset your feet, toe down, put all your weight on your non-damaged foot. Once you've stood up, you're staying on this toe, you then bring your foot back. So that's the first element. That's standing in a nutshell. So that's something that you can take away, have a practice with it, and it's just thinking about it every single time you stand up. Is there more you can do? Yes. But the purposes of this is to give you some things that you can take away this evening and just start doing just to improve. So walking. Now, walking comes in a whole host of different things. So I've talked about walking around the house barefoot. Over the last 7 months, I've done a lot of testing with these. These are barefoot shoes. So I wear them myself. All my clients are wearing them online and offline. So I recommend everybody to get some barefoot shoes while you're rehabilitating from plantar fasciitis. Now, they do two things. One, obviously, they're a lot more honest, so they limit how far you can walk, but they also promote you to really think about how you're walking, and they also promote strengthening all of your muscles of your foot. If your foot has stronger muscles, it can help the fascia. If it's got weaker muscles, it can't. It also allows you to have a new pair of shoes where you have to get all of that movement. So you've got to have a full 90-degree bend. You're not in trainers where you're in this position. So straight away, it really, really makes an honest movement. And I tell people walking, we start off with 3 minutes. So that's 90 seconds outside your house, down the pavement, 90 seconds away. You then turn around, do 90 seconds back. And I get you to walk, feet nice and straight. And the first thing to practice is very much putting your heel down, putting your heel down, putting your heel down, putting your heel down. But really think about it for 90 seconds. You then turn around and come back. Now, that isn't very far. It's a very short distance, but it's really concentrating. It's trying to isolate where the problems are. The next phase is to go a little bit further and a little bit further still, but that's jumping ahead. You've got to look at, from a loading point of view, what's important. So I'm getting you to walk on your heel. As you're moving forwards, I want you to transfer your weight and then push off with your toe. Now, everybody will tell me they walk heel toe. Pretty much, I'm going to go on a limb here, nearly 100% of the people that I see with plantar fasciitis walk on a midfoot or on their toes. And the reason for that, you weren't taught how to walk, you were just taught how not to fall over. And there's a massive difference. You're not going to have a conversation with a toddler where you go, right, I want you to put your heel down, keep your foot straight. Now, as your heel comes down, transfer your body weight. Now, push off with your toe. Do the same on the other side, same on the other side, same on the other side. That discussion, even with my children, never happened. Okay. So the key thing to remember is that's normal. It's not that it's odd. Everybody has their own nuances with walking, and we all learn to walk very much self-taught. And we copied others. So if you had a good example, you copied a good example, you walk better. If you've been coached, so you've done some sort of activity, whether it's a sport or a specific movement, you've learnt that movement and activity, so you might stand in a certain way. So if you play a lot of tennis, you stand more on your toes so that you can move side to side because you play tennis or badminton. If you play cricket, you'll again stand differently. You'll run differently because you're carrying a bat, as opposed to just running like a sprinter. So all of these things change what you do. Nobody ever really thinks about that because we can walk, we don't even think about it. We walk and talk. And walking's one of the movements that's most practiced. So as an actual movement, it's the movement that everybody does at all ages. So we walk around the house, we walk down the garden, we walk to the shops, we walk to the car. We walk when we go out and about. So we move. We might not move that far, but that's what we do. And we've practiced it, practiced it, and practiced it, and practiced it. So however old you are, if you take two off that, that's how long you've been walking. And that means that as a program, so as something that's up here in your brain, it's really hard initially to undo because it's so automatic. It's actually held in your brain stem. So it's actually not in this part of your brain, it's in your brain stem. When you run, it's more here. When you walk, it's more here because your body can just do it automatically. because you've practiced it and practiced it. If you think about how many steps you do, how many steps you've done over your lifetime, it'll be extensive. And it's undoing that. So it's just changing little things which alter how you walk, which importantly altering the load. Now, the other thing that I want you to have a little go at is as you're walking and putting your heel down, I want you to think about taking shorter strides than you normally do. So it's accentuating the heel down and it's taking shorter strides than you normally do. The reason for that is if you take short strides, you reduce the pressure on your foot down to around 50%. When you take slightly longer strides, it's about 1.5 to 2. So that's like double your body weight. So you take normal strides. If you take long strides, you're up to 3 times your body weight because you've got momentum and other things happening. So that really increases the amount of force on your foot. So you want to take shorter strides, feet nice and square, heel toe. So those are the key things to really consider. You've got standing and walking. So those are the key things to consider with that. Now, when I say that to people, it's easy peasy. It genuinely is that easy. So from a rehabilitation point of view, there's not a quick fix. It's not, oh, this is magic. Have these insoles, it will fix everything. They help a bit. So insoles work really well if you have a job where you stand a lot. So they're quite good to put in your shoes just while you're standing, or to put them in shoes that you stand in. And then if you're walking around, to have a different pair that haven't got the insoles in. And the reason for that is it takes some of the pressure off. So if you're working, say you're in a shop or a factory or in a job where you just got to stand up, then obviously that takes a lot of pressure off. More and more people are working from home. So if you're then working from home, it's much easier to have bare feet. So you can do short journeys around the house and be constantly just building your foot muscle up. So those sorts of things have a much bigger impact on your plantar fasciitis than this quick fix option, special shoes, injections, other bits. Now, what injections do, if you go to the doctors and they've said, right, steroids, you can have some steroid injections, is basically they just shut your brain off to the fact you've got a problem. So all they do essentially is cut that communication off. So your brain doesn't know it's got a problem with the foot. If it doesn't know there's a problem, it can't do anything to fix it. So it stays damaged. And also, if you're constantly walking and moving in the same way as you were, but you can't feel any pain, there's a problem there because you're just going to make that worse, but you're going to be unaware of it. So while they work well in the short term, if they work, because they're inconsistent, they're about 50-50 on success. So that's not to say they don't work, but you do need to change something to help your body heal itself. Now, I'm not talking about some magic silver bullet. I tell everybody I advertise, you're looking at 3 to 6 weeks. I think within a clinic environment, 3 weeks is definitely with some intense treatment. We've had loads of success in a short space. But I think if you're doing something where you're working on a program at home, I think you're looking at more like 6 weeks. Now, the key thing is, well, how does that work? How am I getting this difference? What does the change? 6 weeks isn't a long time. It might seem a long time because it's a month and a half, but actually it's 6 weeks. So it isn't a lot. It's 42 days. Now, what I talk to a lot of people about is magnitude of improvement. So if you go out and do a walk, like I've said, you do 3 minutes, come back and go, yeah, that's about as far as I can do. If you do that again the day after, day after, day after, day after, and then you do other movements, what that's going to do is gradually build yourself up so that you could do week 2, for argument's sake, 6 minutes. If you do 6 minutes, again, it's 3 minutes out, 3 minutes back, but it's double the amount you were doing before. And that's something that's significant. People forget that I can only walk 3 minutes, now I can walk six. 6 minutes isn't a long time. But in your world, because you've got an injury and you're getting better from it, the key thing to remember is, actually, hang on a minute, that's a massive increase. So those sorts of changes happen rapidly. One of the ways you can speed them up is to engage more with a program. So if you've got a program of rehabilitation, say you've seen a physio, just have a quick drink. If you've seen a physio will give you some movements to do. They're not all bad. Sometimes they're too intense in relation to your physio, your plantar fasciitis, but that's sort of something else. It's not to be negative to other professionals, but it's very much the case. They'll go, right, maybe do this a couple of times a day. And they'll get you a movement 3 or 4 times. If you think that the gold standard that everyone talks about is 10,000 steps, so that means 5,000 steps on either foot. If you're doing something 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, and then normally they're looking at trying to get you to do 5,000 steps, there's a massive disconnect. So I get people to work between 6 and 10 minutes as a block. So there's a few little movements and exercises that you need to do as part of a program. And then it's again doing a bit of walking. Walking's really key because obviously that's how you move. So you'll do some practice standing up and sitting down, and you do some walking and you do some other bits. So you're looking at around 10 minutes. Now, if you allocate 10 minutes a day over a week, that's 70 minutes of rehab, brilliant. And it's 7 points. So seven better. Now, if you double that, you can do 14 over a week. If you triple it, so say you did 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes sort of lunchtime, early afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening, straight away, that's 21 sessions or 3 weeks of rehabilitation. If you do that over 4 weeks, you've done 12 weeks of rehabilitation. You can see that the recovery gets faster and faster how much you engage with a rehab program. Now, everybody is super keen on day one. So if you do an online program, I'm no different. First day, it's brilliant. Second day, not so bad. Third day, yep, still going. Fourth day. If you commit to doing 3 sessions a day, by the end of the first week, you'll be, oh, I've made some really good progress here. I've done 21 sessions. I can see a difference. I can now walk 6 minutes or 9 minutes, and I've made real progress. If you say to somebody you only need to do once a day, and our mistake for this in the clinic in the early days was getting people not to work hard enough, because people were doing movements but only doing little bits. So the progress was quite slow. And obviously then within that, everybody wants a quick fix, me included, because you want to have that level of success. You want to have the next person you want to help. You don't want to be just helping one person for, 3, 4, 5 months. You want to be able to get them through and out the door. Now, when you think about that, you think, okay, well, magnitudes, I'm over 100. If I do that for 6 weeks, that's over 100 sessions. That's a lot yeah, that's really rocking, if you know what I mean. That's 120 sessions. So if I do that many, if I've done 120 training sessions, rehab sessions, and it's done in a progressive way, where I do a little bit more and a little bit more, and I do some different exercises, and as things improve, I can do a bit more, and I can go up and down stairs more, and I can do things generally more. That's obviously a great thing. So that's your bridge. That's going from, I've got plantar fasciitis to now I haven't. Now, I talk a lot about getting better, so better than you were before. So I see people, I always ask, what do you want to achieve? Now, most people, I just want to get the pain away. That's obvious. Nobody wants any pain. That's like almost the sort of default answer. I'll take away the pain. Once you've done that, okay, I can walk about now. I'd like to be able to do something else. So the amount of people that I see, either online or in the clinic, where we start off, we get the pain right down, the mobility goes up, suddenly people are walking more. So to give you an example, there's a lady who's messaged me who was struggling to walk, say 3 minutes. So we did a 3 minute walk test. This is a clinic client, a 3 minute walk test, and she was struggling. We did some work, some treatment, some other bits within the clinic. She then got up to sort of 6 minutes. I was like, okay. The second week, we got up to 12 minutes. This weekend, she just messaged me. She's gone out for a walk, social walk, so it's not speed. She's thought about her walking style, all the stuff we've been working on. She's been really committed, so she's done this 3 sessions a day. She's now up to an hour social walk. So she did, I think, just under 3 miles in an hour. And she was over the moon. She hasn't done that in 10 years. Now, she's got other things wrong. She's got a hip problem and a few other things and everything else. But that's phenomenal. My biggest challenge is once people start getting better, I've got to keep holding them back. So I've had people where I've worked with them online. We've had that initial session. We've had sort of half an hour. We've gone through stuff. We've gone through the program, and they've looked and gone, right, okay. And then literally a week later, they're messaging me going, I can do all of this now. How much shall I do? If I do more and more, will that help? And it's about getting a balance. And the balance is the key thing. So I've developed two real programs. I've developed a program which is independent. It's very video based. It's short and punchy. And what it allows you to do is start off going, yep, I want to learn how to stand up and reduce the pain. I want to be able to walk short distances, reduce the pain. And now I want to walk a bit longer. So just take those three elements, those three steps. Those three steps are really the fundamental foundations, but that's broken down over 18 modules. So there's a lot of detail in this program, and it allows you to practice things, and it allows you to focus. And sometimes it sounds a bit like a broken record, feet straight, doing this. So it gives you lots of alternatives for how you can improve doing those activities. And it really highlights with very focused movement on what it should look like, so you know what you need to do. You've then got another phase where you're looking at strengthening your foot up. Oh, strengthening your foot up. Well, yeah, if you want to do more, you need to make sure that your foot's strong enough to do more activity. You can't just suddenly go, oh, I feel a bit better now. Let's go off and walk for an hour. We've got to do that in a progressive way. So, how the program works is it gets you to do more and more activity in line with increasing the magnitude of your improvement. So, you've got different tests that you do over a period of time. Now, the idea of the course is that you follow it online and that you do different activities on different days, and then it accumulates roughly at about 6 weeks where you're doing a lot more because the pain's come down and your mobility's gone up. You have a little bit of an impasse in the middle, sort of 3, 4 weeks. And the reason you have a little bit of an impasse is you're pushing to do more and more because things feel good. You have some days where the pain's significantly reduced in the sense of frequencies. You have almost like little spikes. You then find that it's not as acute. So you have points where I don't feel any pain, I feel great. So you try and do more. So you always have a few little bits of this. But over the program of 6 weeks, you get to the end and you've got, can't believe that all I've done is change how I move, what I do. I've engaged doing these different activities. I've done it in a structured way. Look at the improvement. But that's like loads of things that you do. It's just that people do so little for themselves. And I'm a classic example. You go through, you injure yourself. I'm a bit like a builder that hasn't finished the extension on their house. So you might have an injury. Oh, yeah, I'll fix that. I'll look at that tomorrow because I'm busy today. And I've had exactly the same experience with feet, knee problems, shoulder problems, just from doing other activities and sports. And then suddenly, oh, should have fixed that. And I'm my own worst enemy. Sometimes I need to hold the mirror up to myself. But from your point of view, what you've got to look at is I've got an online program, I can follow that, and I'll go from being struggling with plantar fasciitis to not having plantar fasciitis. And all I've done is follow a program of recovery. Now, part of the reason that this is special is because it's been developed over 14 years, and it's been developed with nearly 3,000 people that have had plantar fasciitis. So there's a lot of experience and it's very focused. And there's a lot of research gone in. Oh, I've tried that, tried this, try this movement. Oh, that hasn't worked. Why not try this? Let's look at insoles. Well, they've not worked so well. These aren't so good. Let's look at barefoot shoes. So there's a whole host of other things that have gone on behind the scenes. So this online program is something that I use to help support people in the clinic. So they come and see me. We do a lot of treatment. I use medical devices and other bits to speed the process up. So within the clinic, yes, we can speed up and get faster results, but there's more input. So again, you would expect that. But an online program they have to help support their rehab at home. So in between sessions, they get lots of stuff. Now, as from doing an online program, I've realised that people also need some support online. So I give people the option to have some slots where they can actually speak to me and go through stuff, and we can look at things like self-assessment, some of the unique challenges you've got, and it might take a little bit longer. Bear in mind, if you've had plantar fasciitis for 9 months, 2 years, 3 years, if you can recover in 6 to 8 weeks, that's a phenomenal return. And all it is then changing. Now you get asked all the same questions. Is it a lasting fix? Well, as long as you keep doing stuff, it's not going to change. It's going to get better and better. The key thing that you've got to bear in mind is if you do all this activity, so say you get up to walking half an hour, and that might be quite substantial, and you do that every other day, that's all you're going to need to do to maintain all of this positivity. Now, if you stop walking, stop doing activity, and then suddenly go out and do a 15-mile walk, the chances of getting plantar fasciitis again increase significantly because your body isn't adapted to doing that. So I think there needs to be a level of balance where you go, okay, I've done the program, I've got better, I've got to keep doing a little bit of it. That's great. It's a bit like if you lost weight. So you lost weight, lost 3 stone, and you were eating a certain amount of food and you were eating certain types of food and all the other stuff. And then you went off for 3 months and ate all the wrong food, like Christmas dinners every day. You're going to put weight on. It's exactly the same with any sort of rehab. You've got to do a little bit of it. You haven't got to do it all the time. But what you'll find is it allows you to do other things. I've got a lady seeing me next week. She had plantar fasciitis. We fixed her. We got her from the level of not being able to do very much to walking and all the activities, dog walking, going out walking in the Malverns. Brilliant. She then came back and goes, I want to be able to play tennis now. I haven't played tennis for 18 months. She was playing competitive tennis. I'm now seeing her because she slipped over on her ankle in the final of a tennis tournament and she'd won several tournaments. So she'd gone up to play tennis 2 or 3 times a week and was playing quite a good standard for her age group. And I'm now seeing her because she's hurt her ankle. Nothing to do with plantar fasciitis, just for sporting injury, which is ironic because she wouldn't have got it if she hadn't have fixed the plantar fasciitis. So the key things from today: stand with your feet, certain position, so you've got them nice and straight, slightly further apart. When you stand up, offset your feet, so one foot slightly back, the one that's better. 1 foot's forward, stand on your toe, and then roll forward, stand up. When you put load on this foot, it's on the ball of your foot, your toes. That takes all the pressure off the heel. And then when you walk, try and walk with shorter strides, heel toe. Now, as I said, I've got an online program. The opportunity with the online program is to have some additional support. So that's something that I will send out to you and stuff afterwards. If you live close to Stratford, I've got a face-to-face clinic if that's something you would like to engage with.